After the release of Luigi's Mansion 3, it has been revealed that Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon, as I'm calling it, is getting a remaster for the Switch in mid-2024. So, it felt fitting to go back to the origins of the Luigi's Mansion series, which are strange when you think about it. After all, Nintendo's new system back in 2001, the GameCube, launched without a mainline Mario title in the style of Super Mario 64. This was before Super Mario Sunshine. Instead, it launched with Luigi's Mansion, a GameCube tech demo shown at Nintendo Space World 2000 to demonstrate the graphical capabilities of a GameCube turned full game. It was decided at the beginning to set the game inside a big house and give Luigi the spotlight, all for something different. What was initially shown or thought about to be included in the game changed over time, such as the full motion video footage, an underground cave, and even an RPG system where actions would affect the environment. Instead, we have Luigi with a vacuum cleaner sucking up ghosts in the first Luigi's Mansion game, originally released on the GameCube in 2001 and 2002. There is a little more background information on the story in the instruction booklet, detailing that Luigi gets a message saying, "Congratulations, you've won a huge mansion." It's very fishy, but that doesn't stop Luigi from calling his brother Mario over to the mansion to celebrate. Then, as the game actually begins, Luigi is following a map to this mansion, only for it to be a dark, scary night in the forest. He does find a mansion as pinpointed on the map, but Mario is not there, and there are ghosts inside. An old man, Professor Egad, lives near the mansion, studying the ghosts, and gives Luigi the Poltergust 3000 vacuum cleaner to suck up the ghosts trapping Mario. But is Luigi even brave enough to overcome these ghosts and save his brother? Well, the story is simple enough, which works for a Mario title. There is a little more to the mansion and main antagonist than is to be expected, but that is mostly it. It is commendable, however, that this story is deliberately different from the mainline Mario games, and not just that it's Mario instead of Peach being rescued this time, but other friends and foes from the Mushroom Kingdom being used sparingly or not at all. Even Toad tries not to be scared of a ghost, so they can just save the game and give a few hints. The production values, while somewhat dated today, are still extremely good, and are a great showcase for the power of the GameCube. The animation is lovely, and the dynamic lighting is an achievement that the Nintendo 64 could only dream of. One of the most impressive aspects about the production values, however, is the balance. Luigi's Mansion is naturally meant to be a bit of a scary haunted house story, but for a younger audience as befitting the Mario titles, and this is pulled off very well. It's not so scary as to incite angry parents contacting Nintendo, or so non-scary that the haunted house idea is silly or laughable. Granted, it can be a little spooky, right down to some of the sound effects of the ghosts that can even scare Luigi, but the GA+ classification on the Australian cover doesn't diminish this feat any less. In fact, it's a shame that it wasn't replicated as much in the sequels, as terrific as those looked. The sound is also very interesting as a contrast to other Mario games. Outside of very subtle homages to past games, the overall soundtrack goes for a mostly electronic music vibe that usually complements the haunted house idea with its own main melody, while occasionally being funky or just pleasant, easy listening at times. Luigi even hums the music, and how he hums it depends on how much health he has. Same for when he shouts out Mario's name while searching for him.
Mario! Mario! Mario!
This search for Mario features interesting gameplay mechanics and a control scheme that was just as much a demonstration of a GameCube controller as was the console's technical capabilities. First of all, the gameplay and controls don't resort to platforming at all, a possibly refreshing change from all the jumping in bottomless pits of yesteryear, but don't think this is lacking in challenge. The two sticks on the GameCube controller are used to move Luigi and aim the flashlight and vacuum cleaner, the dual analog scheme that popularized first-person shooters during this generation. This can take a little getting used to. I should know, I played this game's demo on release and had trouble, but with a little training from Professor Egad himself, you should be able to master it, but the aiming can still be somewhat tricky based on inverted controls. Then you see how the progression works. When you go up the stairs at the very beginning, there is a locked door, and then a key suddenly appears on the floor right below. Basically, the progression consists of you sucking up all the ghosts in a room, and then usually getting a key to go to another room in the mansion, highlighted on your Game Boy Horrors map. Least of all a door in the very room you just cleared. While sucking up the ghosts can be as simple as flashing your torch on one and pushing the control stick in opposite directions to drain their health, ghosts become more complicated as you progress. Sometimes they're shy or quick, sometimes you have to change something in the room to expose their weak spot. You can even use the Game Boy Horror to scan a ghost for some ideas, not to mention get some surprisingly dry humour and a penchant for dusting out of Luigi's observations, something that wouldn't feature in the sequels. After clearing a series of rooms, you will come across a boss fight that marks the end of an area or chapter. These boss fights can be surprisingly challenging, but also border on tedious later on due to the camera or how erratic the boss movement is. For the most part, this game is a balanced challenge, where figuring out how to get the ghosts is neither too hard or too easy. Very few puzzles will stump you, if at all, and those are the least of your worries, as ghosts will want to drag Luigi over banana peels, other ghosts and so on, while being vacuumed. One of the other key aspects of progression when it comes to ghosts are the 50 Boo ghosts that Luigi accidentally releases from their holding place. Insert roulette for Boo's outline here. These Boos can only be found in rooms with the lights on after the previous ghosts are gone. Then the Game Boy Horror sensors, as well as pressing A or using the vacuum cleaner on mostly random objects, will uncover them. You can vacuum them up if only to stop them making puns with their names. However, they can easily escape the Poltergeist 3000 and go into another room or hallway, which prompts some annoying back and forth movement if the health number is high. In fact, it's the back and forth that can be considered a problem in the game. The backtracking, especially where some locked doors are concerned. One of the key aspects of the puzzle solving is the use of elements such as fire and water, of which you can only have one at a time. This is fine, except there are a few times when you have to backtrack to a room to replace an element or get ammunition for it. This is especially bad in area/chapter 3, which combined with the mandatory start in the first room when dying or reloading the game, mostly feels like an excuse to pad out the game. But is the game that padded anyway? Well, this game is really short, averaging to about 6 hours or so on your first playthrough. While the game certainly doesn't overstay its welcome and is mostly fun from start to finish to warrant so much as another playthrough for the sake of it, the game would have probably benefited, possibly even from a financial standpoint, from being somewhat longer. The replay value does extend to getting more money, especially from hard to get golden mice, so you get a higher rank at the end, which is purely an aesthetic reward. You can try to get better portraits of the ghosts you get by capturing them more efficiently, and there is the unlockable Hidden Mansion, where the only difference apart from mirror swapping in the game are that the vacuum is more powerful at the cost of the ghosts putting up more of a fight. Also, the Hidden Mansion with its higher quantity of money was the only way in the power version to get an A ranking, surprisingly. Something that would be changed in the 3DS remake regardless of region. I've not played this version, but am aware that it features cooperative play with a Luigi doppelganger that would eventually feature in Luigi's Mansion 3, as well as a boss rush mode and other subtle changes. Luigi's Mansion sold well on the unfortunately underselling GameCube, prompting a discounted Player's Choice re-release, aka Nintendo Select, but the value of physical copies today unfortunately doesn't reflect that. Plus, it can be argued that the game is too short for the general price even in retrospect, but some replay value does extend the game, and you might even enjoy the game more in a second or third go. The production values, while dated, still hold up reasonably well, and the gameplay, while far from perfect, is fun and above all a refreshing change from the norm of Mario games that even today should be given more of a chance. Well, this launch title maybe was given enough of a chance as to warrant 2 sequels and a 3DS remake. Well, it seems I'm mostly up to date with the Luigi's Mansion series. Now all that remains is to wait for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD on the Nintendo Switch in 2024.